people say my chameleon hates me or I've got a really angry chameleon, and I don't think that's actually the case. So let's talk about it a little bit. So I don't think chameleons really hate us. I don't really think they're capable of being angry. I think the reality of the situation is they're an animal that's about this big, that they have lots of predators in the wild, and the only way to defend themselves is to make them look big and scary and even bite. But that's it. That's the only way a chameleon has to defend itself. They get big and puffy, they gape, and they're hoping, fingers crossed, that if they do all that, then the predator will be scared and back off and leave them alone. That's the dream. That's the goal for the chameleon. Just survive and stay alive, don't get eaten. In the instance that being big, puffy, and scary isn't going to deter the predator, then they have to try and bite them. But they've got tiny teeth. Like, it's not like they have razor sharp teeth and razor sharp nails and just like attack you or a predator. They don't have that, and like they're not built that way. So the only way a chameleon can defend itself is to make itself look as big and scary as possible. So the reality of the situation is when your chameleon is demonstrating this behavior, it's because they're getting defensive. They're scared. Think about it. They're only this big and you're this big. To them, you're this giant predator who could potentially eat them. So it's fight or flight. It's life or death. They gotta scare you away and make themselves as big as possible. So if your chameleon does this behavior, let's try and change the language, how we're describing it, and be like, hey, I have a scared chameleon, or hey, I have a defensive chameleon. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably like, okay, that's great. I'll like to know that, but how do I make my chameleon less scared and less defensive? So the thing is, you have to make them feel safe and that you're not a threat. Some chameleons have a low fear response and could care less how big or scary you look, and they'll climb right on you. They're not friendly, they're not happy, they're just not scared of you. So we have to figure out ways to build that trust and let the chameleon know that you're not this big scary creature. Things like leaving their enclosure door open, making them feel comfortable that way. Things like giving them time and space to settle into their new enclosure. If you just brought your chameleon home and you're trying to interact with them, they're in this brand new enclosure. They don't know you, they don't know their environment, they're trying to get used to that. It's best to give your chameleon a couple weeks just to get adapted to their new environment before trying to interact with them. You can also feed them tree bugs like waxworms or hornworms or even superworms and see that the tree bug is a positive experience with you. That could be a great option. Another thing you could do is leave your hand near them, and if they start puffing or gaping, then that's it. That's the boundary. Don't go any closer than that. And just leave their hand there for a while until they calm down. It might take some time, but if they puff up and get defensive and scared of you, as soon as you reach in there or try to interact with them, and you pull away, then you're rewarding that behavior. So it's a balance between respecting your chameleon's space and their boundaries, but also letting them know, like, hey, I'm not gonna eat you. Chameleons aren't inherently animals that enjoy being handled. They don't build a bond in that they are super social creatures. They don't enjoy being handled, so we need to respect that. The only time you should really need to handle your chameleon is if you need to transport them to the vet, or if you're taking them out of their enclosure for free range time outside, maybe for some natural UVB, that's a great option. But you can get them onto a stick, or what I would do sometimes with Neptune when he doesn't want to come out, is I'll put a fake tree in front of his enclosure, and I just leave the door open. I go off and to the other side of the room, obviously babysit him, and if he climbs onto the tree on his own, that's great. He gets time outside of his enclosure. I can put him outside pretty easily. If he chooses not to come out, that's his own doing. I don't interact with him. Neptune's most definitely my most scared chameleon out of my 3, and I respect that. I will handle Neptune maybe once every 2 months, 3 months if I'm lucky. That's it. And that's our relationship. And I look at him and he looks at me and he hides from me and he gets defensive, and I respect his boundaries. Apollo and Luna are a little bit less fearful. They haven't been that way since they were a baby. They've had no issues coming out or me interacting with them, so I just take them out, put them onto their tree, and they enjoy their time outside. Just because Neptune puffs at me, gapes at me, does not mean that he's angry. It does not mean that he's mean. It means he's terrified. He's scared. So we just need to recognize that and respect these animals for what they are. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave any questions or comments down below. Feel free to subscribe so you know when I post a new video. And you can follow Neptune and all my chameleons on social media at Neptune the Chameleon. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye! Boom, Neptune! We did it!